Hello and welcome to the program. Is The Desk on Global Television. No doubt the most compelling talk show on TV where we look at silent issues making the rounds in Nigeria. We'll be looking at very interesting talking points across board, and hopefully I'll be joined with my guest. I'll be having Barrister Chukwuma Nze, who is a national activist, will be joining us via Zoom. Also, we'll be having Olugbenga George, a journalist, is journalist in the Federal Capital Territory, to also get his take as regards things happening in Nigeria. We'll also be joined, hopefully, from Bayelsa, where Blessing Mina, a public affairs analyst, will also be joining us in today's discourse as we look at very salient issues of national interest. We'll be looking at Senegal and also the CBN decision to jack up interest rates and other issues making the rounds on today's edition of the program. Let's quickly go for a quick break. When we come back from this quick break, the program begins. Right, let's begin the talking point. We've got Olugbenga George, who is joining us via Zoom on the program. Olugbenga George, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Nigeria. Good evening, Tony.
All right, I think we also have Barrister Chukwuma Nze, who is a national activist, also joining us via Zoom. I want to say welcome to the program, Chukwuma. All right, hopefully Blessing Mina also joining us from Bayelsa to ensure that our discourse is in full circles. Once they join us, we'll be kicking off discourse, but let's begin from where it matters most, the African continent. Olugbenga George, let's begin from the issue that has to do with Senegal, where a former announcement of Faïz's victory at the polls, ensuring the end of the era of Macky Sall, has, sent jubilation across Senegal, our fellow West African brothers. How do you see this panning out, the way the event turned out? Initially, remember some weeks ago, we were talking about the implications of Macky Sall wanting to perpetuate himself in office. And with this recent victory by someone who is a tax inspector winning the polls from nowhere, how important is this victory for Senegal and its people?
Well, I think this is a victory for democracy. This is a victory for Africa and growth of democracy in Africa, most especially in that age-long country where you have Macky Sall having been in power for the time that he's been. It's a win, like I said, for the ordinary people, who rallied around to ensure that, despite that, just 10 days after his release, from political penitentiary, that he is able to emerge as the winner of that keenly contested election. It's also interesting because Faye also happens to be in the opposition, and coming from the opposition to defeat the opposition candidate, talking about Bo, is all shades of celebration for democracy, where I'm concerned. Senegal happens to, a lot of people, were worried also when we look at the plan of Macky Sall to extenuate the time of election for, until it was addressed and eventually everything turned out to seem to go smoothly. So there's a lot of wins when you look at what Faye represents. When we look at the personality, we look at the story, behind behind Faye and Faye's victory, then we'd realize that it seems that Africa is right, to onboard democracy in its full scale. Similar to what happened in Nigeria, where a lot of people came out and said they wanted someone who is younger, and they threw their weight behind the candidate of the Labour Party, who is in the opposition. And unfortunately for him, didn't emerge as the winner of the election. I think Senegal are able to walk their talk, which for me is a lesson for the Nigerian people to learn. Participation goes beyond just making noise or contributing via social media. We have to be able to see elections to the point where on the election day, you turn out and you cast your vote and you stand by it to protect those votes. I believe that is what the Senegalese people have done and have produced the president who is just 44 years old. Also, it is a lesson for Nigeria and other African countries to maintain peace whenever election is being held. It's very interesting because I always have to compare it with Nigeria, because we just had an election that is about a year ago. And you would remember how the current president, after the time he was elected till about September, when he had the Supreme Court judgment, could not breathe, in his own words. He could not breathe because opposition from right, left, and center were after him, were challenging the victory. I'm not saying that when people feel that there has been some sort of foul play in the result of the election, that people should not seek the court, to seek redress. But I am saying that once somebody wins, we should know that if one wins, we all have won. And we should not seek for fiery victories during elections like it is commonplace in Nigeria, because you realize that some of the persons, just because you're opposition, you feel that you must challenge this. And for example, for some of the cases that were presented in court during the Nigerian case, some could not even defend their claims. I mean, there were no evidences to back up some of the claims that some of the litigants that litigated against the president of Nigeria had. So for me, it's a lesson for us. We must realize that when one of us wins, all of us have won, and we must rally around and seek to support whoever wins, whoever is in power, as a product, as a result of a democratic process that has been followed through. We must see it that way, and we must abide by it and know that our wish, our desire to rule may not materialize, at a particular time that we want it. But that is not to say that we should not take the back seat and become unconcerned with political happenings. I like what is happening in Nigeria, and I believe that Senegal will set the tone for a new understanding, of political engagement across Africa.
Salvo, we've been joined by Barrister Chukuma Nze, a national activist. Chukuma, thank you for joining us on the desk.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Chukuma, we've heard George open the salvo with a very, very deep analysis of what's playing out in Senegal in contrast to what's played out in Nigeria. We've got Faye, who has already extended his hands of fellowship to Macky Sall and the rest of the country, saying he's going to, govern the country in humility and reconciliation. Looking at what Faye is saying, do you think he's saying it out of just the excitement of the victory, or we're truly going to see a restructure of the Senegalese, presidency and way of governance? And do you think he's in for a very deep, issue he barely knows?
The truth is, most Africans now are talking about youthful leaders, and we've known Africa for some of the leaders who want to rule back to back for a very long time. And we think that is not the best because so far, Africa is where you have most of the developing countries. And over the years, these leaders have not changed the trajectory. So I think with the victory of Faye, it is a welcome development, pointing towards the fact that if Senegal has set the pace for youthful leaders to emerge in Africa. So I believe that he's saying what he has said passionately because there is need for reconciliation and national healing because of if you follow the path before the election, the incarcerations and all that. So there is a need for healing and the reconciliation, like he said. And I think if he follows it through, uh, he would set the pace so that other leaders can follow. Other African leaders can follow that path. It's a welcome development. Congratulate him for that resounding victory.
All right, let me stay with you. The next talking point has to do with the military raid on one of the elder statesmen of Nigeria and also the people of the Niger Delta, talking about Edwin Clark, Chief Edwin Clark, who has condemned the way the military, raided his home and caused some bit of destruction in his home and his relatives' apartment close to his vicinity. Let's look at the action of the military. Do you think they're going overboard due to the killing of those 17 military officers? And also the fact that we've seen gory pictures of how the Okuma community has been burnt down and persons also who were also murdered.
I think they need to be cautioned.
Please, can you be more audible so that we can hear you?
I said I think the military needs to be cautioned. Unfortunately, they lost their own, but because of the role they play in our security architecture, I think they have more intelligence than the civilians. And if they think there is an information that whether documents or evidence they can extract from the elder man's residence, I think they are not the proper security agents to go for that. It's the police. That's where we talk about shared intelligence. But it's unfortunate. Some of our officers are becoming overzealous, especially because of the hurt on their the loss of their officers, gallant officers at that. But we should two wrongs they say does not make, so they should not go further with the way they are going. If they have intelligence, they should implement it properly. Use the agencies like the police, like I said earlier, that is supposed to go for that search if need be, to do it. Because Edwin Clark is an elder statesman who needs to be respected.
All right, thank you for that update there. Let's get the view of Lugbenga George. George, let's delve into the matter of the raid of Chief Edwin Clark's home in search of one of the purported leaders who perpetrated the killing of the military, talking about the person called One Vote. Do you think it was fair enough or decent enough the way the military went about raiding Edwin Clark's home? About 30 to 40 soldiers were said to have come in trucks to, ransack his home.
Well, the issue of whether it is armed, by the way, I must say it's good to see My brother again, Chukwumanze. It's been a long, long time. I'm quite excited to see your face. All right.
Thank you.
The issue of whether it is right or is wrong is dependent, on we have a national crisis as far as I'm concerned, and that is the killing of the 17 army members of the army, in Delta State. And investigations have been going on, and these investigations, have somewhat produced the action, that the military decided to take. Yes, I agree and believe strongly that the elder statesman should be fully respected, and that respect could have meant that another approach could have been used, to address that situation in requesting, for his search. I mean, for his in his place. More so, we are in a democratic setting, and this is not the military type. We understand, that the military sometimes does not need to go through all of those protocols whenever they want something done. But this is a democratic setting. We're in a democratic dispensation, and democracy requires that the rights of individuals are sustained. I believe, that the elder statesman should be apologized to, and that the military should rather, invest their time in researching properly to be able to have first-hand information. Because looking at the whole raid, there seems to be nothing they have actually benefited, from that raid. Just disrespect, pure disrespect. And then you talk about the fact that a lot of people were embarrassed, we were humiliated, people who weren't supposed to be part of that whole thing, because they were searching for Mr. Volt, I believe, it shouldn't have been that way. I mean, there could have been other ways to respectfully ask the elder statesman, for what they needed. But then it's a security issue, it's a national issue, and the military at this time are grieved, But there's a saying in Yoruba that if you are crying, we should still see. So we understand that it's a time of grieving, and they are desperate for answers, for reading this, and they want to get it wherever it can be gotten. But it shouldn't lead to disrespect, of people that we should respect. However, in searching for justice, sometimes you realize that there are no sacred cows. The military, when they intend to do something, they leave no stone unturned. And sometimes they don't give a hoot about whose ox gets gored. But like I said again, it's the democratic dispensation, hence human rights and the right of that elder statesman, whether it's even an elder statesman or a Nigerian, whether it's a young person like me or any other Nigerian. I believe that they deserve the right, to their privacy. They deserve the right, and there should have been probably a warrant and a forewarning, for that search. Yes, I understand that the Port Harcourt command, of the military have apologized to the other statesman, but I think the apology should even come from the top military brass in this country, to address that issue. And then the old man is 97 years old. Any such emergency, any further pull, any further dragging could lead to unfortunate situation. So it's really sad. And we all have parents, by the way. We all have fathers, and we pray. We have mothers, and we always pray that God should keep them and make them live long. So and these are the issues that I think the military should have put ahead of that action that they committed in the residence of Chief Edwin Clark.
Let me stay with you. Do you think the military is technically kind of doing the right thing at the wrong time? Because chasing of these culprits almost more than 72 hours or even 120 hours after the crime has been committed, do you think there's going to be complete success of them catching the culprits and them not mistaking for people, the wrong people, just because probably a person or group of persons have been labeled as bad or seen in a bad light, then they now, round them up and say these are the culprits.
One of the things that we must note is that the military is a very, very organized institution in this country. And while I would not speak for them, I believe that one of their core strengths is the ability to gather intelligence. So I'm sure that whatever led to that action of raiding Chief Edwin Clark's house must have been as a result of some intelligence that they got. Whether it's 72 hours after, 100 hours after, or a year after, the responsibility of these people is to bring, the perpetrators of that evil to justice. And if you're going to do that, you have to look at every nook and cranny. Like I stated before, you shouldn't come with disrespect. I believe that there could have been other approaches, to this matter, in the sense of probably asking respectfully, to have a search, probably having a warrant, to do all of that. But they are desperate, like I said, they are desperate for answers. And what we can only ask, is that they do more of intelligence gathering and be sure that the information they get is correct and that it leads and that it is conducted properly. Because it is one thing for you to have information, it's another thing for you to be able to apply that information with discretion. So I think the military needs to be more discretionary, in their approach to dealing with this issue. It's a sensitive issue, and right. I'm sure every Nigerian is still asking question, what happened, Kwama?
Okay, just the last question. You made mention of the military being one of the strong points, being intelligence gathering, and that whenever they wanted to get something done, they get it done. Some critics have said, why don't we see this kind of energy, enthusiasm, when it comes to fighting the terrorism, fighting the Boko Harams and others? Why don't we see this kind of passion?
Well, we are Nigerians, but interestingly, we are journalists. Yourself, myself, and even Mr. Chukuma that is over there. And there are so many things that the public sometimes is not privy to in terms of the activities of what the military is doing to tackle Boko Haram. I would not be one of the persons that will in any way underplay the efforts of the Nigerian military in tackling these issues. I believe, that more can be done, more energy can be deployed, more skill can be deployed, more intelligence can be deployed. But as we speak, they are trying. A lot of them are losing their lives. A lot of them are putting a lot on the line. They are sacrificing. So the fact that we have not gotten the issue of Boko Haram and kidnappers and all the insecurity threats sorted does not mean that military personnel are docile and indolent and not doing what they ought to do. Yes, we also know that it has more of a political solution to some of these things. What's the interest of those in power? Where it comes to tackling this effort, these things, how much of machinery and armament is available for them to also be able to tackle these issues? Those are the questions that I expect Nigerians to ask. We should not just condemn them. I believe they are doing their best, but when your best is not enough, your best is only enough when you have achieved the results that you desire. So we have not achieved that result. Hence, they will need to do more. But I believe that the Nigerian military at the moment is doing their best to tackle some of the challenges regarding insecurity in Nigeria.
All right, well said. Let's move over to the next person there. We've got Chukuma still waiting on the line. Chukuma, let's look at the next talking point. We're looking at Tinubu vetting ambassadorial list is the next talking point. Months after receiving the names of some ambassadorial nominees, President Bola Tinubu has yet to drop a consolidated list of diplomats who will serve Nigeria as envoys to various countries and multilateral organizations. Report reaching us says that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it has since collated and forwarded the names of prospective diplomats to the president for consideration. However, the president's special advisor on information and strategy, in the person of Bayo Onanuga, confirmed that such nominations must pass through a thorough process before a final list is released. He debunked a list making the rounds, describing it as fake news. We know that in November 2023, a senior official in the ministry said names of new ambassadors are being compiled. Let's look at how sensitive this process is and what kind of diplomats should Nigeria be looking at, especially at this time of international politics and what Nigeria is going through and image making for the country.
Okay, I think it's the normal process after the inauguration, the reshuffling of diplomats for appointments. And, you know, the fact is that the interest varies. So many politicians will be lobbying for their names to be there, and there are assurances and reassurances that some names have been confirmed and all that. But the fact is that ultimately, our foreign policy must be seen to be projected by these individuals. It must not be the routine political, the routine slots for politicians who have worked. We must be able to look out for people who appreciate our foreign policy when you put it in tandem with the global policies to develop Africa. There is this drive, there's this collective advocacy for depth. African leaders have indebted their countries severally. We should not have diplomats who will go to further discourse instead of looking for platform where Nigerians who are residents in those countries will bring in their expertise to develop Nigeria. Most times you find out that these diplomats go to negotiate for debt. So whatever process it will take, what ours should be is to ensure that we have individuals who appreciate the value they should bring to the table, who appreciate the fact that Nigeria is wounded economically now, and whatever they need to do over there is to ensure that they support the Tinubu administration to see how they can use their presence in that country to support the economy, to develop and revive the economy for Nigerians to benefit from.
All right, looking at Nigeria, Nigeria has 109 missions across the world, 76 embassies, and 22 high commissions, and 11 consulates globally. Do you think there's need to expand or reduce the number of the commissions, the consulates, and embassies we have across the world?
It must be tied to the value they bring to the table. Some diplomats is they just go there and they just remain afloat until their tenure expires or till they are reshuffled. What value do they bring to the table? Yes, it is good to expand it, but we must be sure of the value they bring to the table. If you have an embassy that does not bring back revenue to the country with regards to the services they render to Nigerians over there, and how to ensure that they bring back value to our local economy here in Nigeria. If we don't have those kind of envoys, it means that we need to shrink the space so that we only have those that can bring value to the table. Some embassies in Nigeria has folded up because when they saw that they could not sustain the monies that they are spending in sustaining the embassy. They collapse it and have just maybe one in West Africa region, and you find out that they still get the services they should rather and spend little. So if we cannot justify the creation or even any existing embassy or consulate, if we cannot justify the value they bring to the table, I think there's no need to keep wasting money on running them. They should be collapsed and still render the same services from maybe closer located locations to the country.
All right, thank you, Chikuma. Let's run over to George. Olubenga. George, let's look at, we're talking about the ambassadorial list now, and Nigeria has 109 missions and 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, and 11 consulates globally. On September 2nd, 2023, the President did recall some of career, non-career ambassadors operating in the country's diplomatic missions. For you, how key is it that the right persons, diplomats, are chosen this time around to deliver the goods for Nigeria, especially when Nigeria is also seeking to get a seat in the United Nations Security Council?
Well, I think it's a very, very strategic time of our lives as a nation. And it is also very important for the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to put the square pegs in the square holes and round pegs in round holes accordingly. We're at a time where, globally, there are issues of dissent, across different platforms, where economics is concerned, where global peace and, interrelations, multilateral relations, bilateral relations, are being questioned. We're at a time where we just spoke about Senegal a few minutes ago, and there's this trend of let's become African now. So our foreign policy thrust, first of all, needs to be a guide, and then I believe it is time, for the administration to look into that. What is our foreign policy in thrust at the moment, and how sustainable it is? Having settled that, then we also are aware, that there are career ambassadors and there are political appointees, political ambassadors, non-career ambassadors, yes, who are political appointees. So for the career ambassadors, I believe that this is what they've been learning all their lives, and this is what they've been waiting for. And it's an opportunity for them to show themselves, to show that they know their metal well, and that they understand the exigency of the Nigerian situation at the moment. Nigeria needs foreign direct investment. Just in the last administration, for close to 3-4 years, some states did not have any foreign direct investment at all. I believe that these are some of the responsibilities, of the ambassadors across all these countries. They should be marketers. They should be people who are able to market Nigeria. You notice that since our President Tinubu came, he's been the chief marketer of the country, jetting around, trying to seek for investors into the country. Yes, and a lot of people have condemned that to say, okay, come and focus on your economy. So I think it is time for Mr. President, to take the back seat while he focuses on actually strengthening the Nigerian economy. But the persons that will be spokespersons, the persons that will be salespersons for Mr. President are these diplomats' heads. They need to actually know what they are doing. They need to understand the Nigerian story, understand the Nigerian construct, and be able to deliver in that respect. The word is, we're talking about where foreign policy is concerned now. You're talking about the ECOWAS bloc, you're talking about the independence, from neo-colonialists. We are talking about economic dependence and stability of Africa and all of that. These are issues. Nigeria, for example, is a key player in African politics and global politics, by the way. So we should now have people who are able to negotiate on our behalf appropriately so that we can move forward developmentally and our relationships. I mean, for me, there have been a lot of countries that benefit more from Nigeria than Nigeria benefits from them. And it is high time that Nigeria also begins to benefit from its relationships. We sacrifice a lot. We carry ECOWAS, we contribute to the African Union at the highest level and all of that. And it is time that we begin to reap some of these investments. And if you are going to reap it, it will be dependent on who these ambassadors are, how much they are able to sit down on the table of trade and negotiation and negotiate favorable conditions, favorable bilateral agreement for Nigeria.
Olubenga George and Chukwuma Nze, I want to say thank you, and I urge you to rejoin us in the next few minutes. Let's go for a quick break. We'll be going for a quick break, and in the next 2 minutes, I expect you to rejoin us via Zoom so that the discourse would continue. We still have very silent talking points. The president says kidnappers must be treated as terrorists is one of our talking points we'll be looking up to after this very short break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching the desk on Global Television, and we've been talking about salient issues from the continent, talking about what's playing out in Senegal to our national issues here. And now it's time for us to look into the big talk by Mr. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who says the kidnappers. President Bola Tinubu has condemned, first of all, the reprehensible act perpetrated by kidnappers across the country, declaring that individuals involved in such despicable crimes must be treated as terrorists. The president made the declaration on Tuesday at the Ramadan dinner with members of the Federal Judicial led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, reiterating the government's resolve to defeat banditry. President Tinubu said those who resort in kidnapping children are cowards, incapable of confronting the might of the Nigerian armed forces, and said we must treat kidnappers as terrorists. All right, Olubenga George, thank you for rejoining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's kick into the discourse. The president has reiterated the need for kidnappers to be treated as terrorists. What do you think about that comment by Mr. President? First of all, he says there's no negotiation, there's no ransom to be paid. And what about those who felicitate or associate with bandits, spokespersons of bandits, and the recent release of the Kuriga school children? The federal government says no ransom was paid. The military says they use kinetic and not kinetic approach for the release of the children. For you, are you confident that we're actually not paying ransoms? And are you confident that the the presidency can walk the talk as regards treating bandits as terrorists?
Well, when you talk about confidence, I believe in the ability and the leadership of Mr. President. I believe in his patriotism, amongst many other factors. I believe that Mr. President is a patriot to the core, who wants to see the issue of insecurity end in Nigeria. That statement for me is a very strong statement. And like you said, that makes two within a very short while, where he first said, we are not going to pay a dime to terrorists, for ransom. And now he's saying kidnappers should also be regarded as terrorists. I think that is the soundest declaration I've heard from Mr. President where insecurity is concerned in this country in recent time. I totally support, that move that kidnappers should be regarded as terrorists because they actually terrorize us and they bring the highest level of instability into this country. They bring the integrity of the country into question and they endanger the lives of the Nigerian people. The responsibility of government is to protect the lives and properties of Nigeria. And whatever it takes for the government to do that, whatever method they decide to use or whatever method they deem necessary, I think it could be deployed. Of course, they have kidnappers are automatically enemies of state because if they are not curtailed and we do not have this very stern position coming from leadership, the declaration alone, sends a very strong message to the bandits because they also hear the news. They know everything going on. So having heard the president say, look, if you are caught, you are a terrorist, and the terrorist should be dealt with. I think that will send shivers down the spine of some of these bandits. But if I should speak to the other issue of the 137 kidnapped students that were released, and the statement of Mr. President that we will not pay ransom. I'm one of those Nigerians who have been asking how the magic did happen. Because you check back at since the times when this issue of kidnapping started in the country, you realize that it's more of a business. It's an organized business, and I wouldn't know how bandits, would go through the risk of kidnapping those number of persons and then release them on what conversations. I think Nigerians deserve to know what conversations went on. I think the presidency should be more forthright, with telling us how it happened. Else, they will leave speculations with the people that maybe tacitly ransoms were paid and government is not ready to admit that ransoms are being paid. And if the president has made such very audacious statements that ransom will not be paid, for individuals and families whose loved ones are also kidnapped, you're also expecting that they will not pay ransom. So please, the Nigerian people, we need to know what negotiations went on that led to the release of these people. Also, this issue have also, for me, have gone almost beyond control. And I believe that there are certain people that needs to be questioned because of what they know. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, that the Islamic cleric, Sheikh Gumi, who said he knows where the hideout of these bandits are, and tried to indict the military last week, should be called to question, and not just called to question, he should be made to lead the Nigerian army to where these people are. We should begin to, with all of this conversation, we have agreed that we will not negotiate with terrorists. If we did not negotiate with them, then what process produced those people that were in detention?
Sure.
What roles did Sheikh Gumi play? Will this justify, some of the things that Sheikh Gumi has been saying? Was Sheikh Gumi involved, in this negotiation process? Maybe if we know this, we can begin to excuse him and understand some of the points he has been saying all along. But when we do not have clarity about these issues, it leaves us, the Nigerian people, with speculations, with doubts, and with distrust. And I believe that the government should address that to make clarification to the Nigerian people, who deserve to know, by the way, immediately.
Well said, George, once again. And let's get the take of Chukwuma here. Chukwumanze, nice to have you rejoin us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Chukwuma, let's get the conversation wrapping up in this topic. Looking at George raising the issue of the Sheikh coming into the picture, we know that Governor of Kaduna State, Obasani, came out full blast after the breaking of the news of the rescue or the return of the school children, that the Sheikh wasn't involved in the release of these children. Do you think there's some bit of cover-up somewhere? Like George did say, how did they use the non-kinetic approach to get these children released? And if they also did use the kinetic approach, how come we didn't hear one terrorist died or anything as regards, the use of kinetic approach?
Like we generally know, security issues are very sensitive issues,
Sure.
and most times they just share the much they feel the public needs to hear. But very important, when people make certain statements, they need to be called to question, especially because the country is bearing the brunt of all the challenges we are going through. And we are demarketing the country because nobody wants to come and do a business with a country where he will be kidnapped for ransom. And the military, like we agreed earlier, they are doing their best, but it must not be the kinetic measures. We must deploy intelligence, preempt these kidnaps. And for the president to have said kidnappers should be seen as terrorists, that is just what they are. They are enemies of the state. Anybody that, because we've also alluded to the fact that the primary responsibility of government is the security and welfare of its people. And anybody that is jeopardizing these salient parts of their responsibility is an enemy of the government. So they should be treated as such. It is unfortunate if you experience what the stories of kidnapped victims tell when they return. So nobody wants his relation to pass through that experience. And the fact that they are being emboldened because some people pay ransom and the industry is enlarging, it should be discouraged. I support the government for saying that they should not pay ransom. But the truth is, for whatever reasons, we should have information. Let's see those who were victimized for participating in that in kidnap cases, like the unfortunate story of these students that were released. Nobody has been arrested. We've not heard the story of anyone being arrested or being prosecuted for that. So it doesn't add up for the citizens to appreciate the fact that that government is telling us that they are not paying ransom and that they want to discourage this industry from thriving. Unfortunately, the industry keeps growing because we don't see people who are punished for being part of a kidnap syndicate to serve as deterrent in the society. We are not being, the essence of having the law and punishment, reward and punishment system is to punish those who embark on bad adventures, and it will serve as deterrent to those who are aspiring to toe that path, so that if they know that it is an unpopular path, that if they toe it, they might also be victimized. And government needs to come out clean on that part. We want to see people being punished for participating in kidnap syndicates. And if we get people punished for that purpose, we will know that it will serve as a deterrent to others in the society and help us to manage our security architecture very well.
We have barely 4 minutes to wrap the program up. We're looking at terrorism financing, where the NFIU, the National Financial Intelligence Unit, uncovered IPOB's US sales and $160,000 payment. The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit has uncovered 27 cells belonging to the indigenous people of Biafra in 22 countries across the globe, including the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, Northern Ireland. The NFU said the US and the UK house the largest numbers of these IPOB cells per country, with 7 and 6 operating IPOB cells respectively in both countries. Let's look at this discovery. How important is it, and how can Nigerian government and the security architecture deal with this very disturbing discovery?
I think they should give us better information of their collaboration with those countries. We have, like we were talking about, the diplomats. We have diplomats in these countries, and they should tell us what deal they are doing with the international police to apprehend those who are found culpable, to bring them back, repatriate them to Nigeria to face the justice. Those are the stories we should be hearing, not the primary issues. We want to know. We will, like I said earlier, the essence of criminalizing a crime is to serve as deterrent. So if we get this information, we don't know what is being done to ensure that these people are punished for the roles they have played in the killings, in funding the killings and the destabilization of the Southeast within this period.
All right.
Then we need those information. It will help to heal the Southeast.
All right, I want to say thank you for joining me on the program, Chukwumanze. Always a pleasure having you in the discourse, and thank you for your very balanced analysis and in-depth view as regards all the national issues on discourse this evening. And I urge you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Also,
thank you for help.
All right, to wrap it up, George, thank you very much. Time not our friend this evening, but just a quick 1-second statement as regards the discovery by NFIU.
I think it's a brilliant discovery, and I want to join my voice with what Chukwumanze just said, that all the facts, should be made bare before the public. However, I think I've had similar conversations some few years back where somebody relation, but that the IPOB is an organization that was created for them to be able to raise funds, and all over the world, a lot of people contribute.
All right, thank you, to support that George. I'm afraid we have to end the conversation here. Thank you, George. Always a pleasure having you with your very grand analysis and deep intake as regards issues of national importance. Thank you very much, George. Always a pleasure having you on the desk. And that's how we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for being part of the most compelling TV talk show, The Desk, on Global Television. Good evening.